All right, we just finished up here at the Sabine River, Orange, Texas. That's right, baby. Fished for 3 days. Power of the stash came through. I'm gonna give you all the tips, tricks, and the tools used to catch my fish here and finish 18th place. Started out the first day in 82nd. I caught a really small limit. I would say a micro limit. Had 5 bass that weighed 5 pounds and 2 ounces. That's all I could catch on day 1. I ran all over Hex Creation and was only able to come up with 5 keepers. I'm going to show you the rods that I used days 1, 2, and 3 here on the Sabine. I probably ran around too much, but I had to kind of get some stuff out of my system and really see what these areas were going to produce. So on the first couple days, I probably ran around too much. I was really trying to force a couple things to try to catch some bigger fish, throwing some topwater baits. They just really weren't working for me on day 1. Luckily on day 1, I really kind of had a combination. I think I caught my very first keeper I caught first keeper on a little spinner bait, a little Bassman spinner bait. Sorry, don't have that out. But I caught the second keeper. That was the only one I caught on it during the tournament. On a Zoom fluke, Disco Green, 5/0 Gamakatsu, offset shank, round big worm hook. Had 14-pound sunline shooter to a Spro power swivel. About like that's what I standard use, about a 14, 16-inch leader there. I just like that. Helps with the line twist. Gives you a little extra weight to keep that bait down. And then my main line is also 14-pound sunline shooter. 7-foot Cashin heavy action worm and jig rod on the Icon series. And then I have a high-speed Daiwa Zillion. That is an 8:5-to-1 gear ratio. You can hum that bait way out there. My marshal on day 1 said, holy cow, I didn't know you could throw a weightless fluke that far with a bait caster. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, you get the right line and you're using the right reel, you get your whole setup going and dial in that reel, you can bomb that thing. That's how I caught the first keeper. That was really the only action on that. And then at the last spot I stopped, I caught one on a little topwater bait because I visually saw them busting and schooling. So I threw over there with the old Vixen on the first fish, and I'll get to that here in a minute. I caught that, and then I caught I caught my 2 other keepers to get my 5 on a jerkbait. I went through, I was using an OSP, and then I wanted something a little smaller, because that's a small jerkbait as well. And so I went to the little Jackal Squad Minnow. It's a real erratic, smaller profile is what I needed. And this is what I was using. A 12-pound Sunline. I was using the Sunline FC Sniper there. Daiwa reel. I was using the 7-to-1 Zillion there. And then the Icon topwater and jerkbait, the 7-foot medium heavy action. That is the deal. That's the one I like. It's extra fast taper, perfect for jerkbaits. I hopefully will be putting this thing to serious use when we go up north soon. But I put some serious use to it. This on days 1, I put 2 keepers in day 1, caught a pile of fish on day 2, and a few keepers on day 2 with that jerkbait. Caught a 2-pounder on day 2, which was a big deal. And then I had, I think I caught my entire limit the second day on the jerkbait, but I ended up culling some of those fish later in the day. I ended up also on days 2 and 3, I caught a couple keepers on a shaky head. This is the 1/8 ounce Warlock shaky head, and I had the Missile Baits mini magic worm, green pumpkin money. Was able to catch probably like 3 or 4 keepers on that on days 2 and 3, but that thing came through for me. I couldn't get a bite on drop shot on some of those areas for whatever reason. That's always why I keep a shaky head and a drop shot in tandem there. But this is the rod and reel I was throwing. Cashin, Icon, spinning. 7'3", medium action, Daiwa ballistic. This is a 3000 ballistics, not the newer MQ. This is what I was using. 16-pound Sunline X Plasma line with an 8-pound Sunline leader. That's the new I mess it up every time. Marabushi. We'll go with that for now. It's the camo color. I'm telling you, it's in the leaders. That thing is the deal for leaders when you want that abrasion resistance. Obviously, in a lake or a river like the Sabine River, you're gonna have a lot of abrasions. You're gonna have things you're gonna be, battling with. That's why I was going. I just love that, especially on the power drop shot, pitching around cover. Works really good. But so on day 2, I ended up catching 2 3-pounders later in the day on the old Vixen. This is the little Vixen. It's an old one, and had the Gamakatsu trebles on there, and had the G Finesse treble, and especially the one with, I think that Mylar on the back really helps get a few extra strikes. A 30-pound Sunline X Plasma braid, Daiwa Zillion, 7-to-1 reel. You can zip that bad boy out there a country mile. And I was using the same, it's a jerkbait rod, same topwater jerkbait rod that I had the jerkbait on, 7-foot Cashin Icon topwater jerkbait. That is a primo combination right there. And then on day 3, I ended up having, I think 3 of the 5 fish that I weighed on day 3 came on the old Whopper plopper 110. I have no idea what this color is called, but I like it. It's got that silver insert, it's got the green back. Looks kind of like a mullet or one of those needlefish that swims across the top. Gamakatsu treble hooks. I had a number 3 round bend treble on the belly. The number 1 on the G Finesse feathered treble on the back. And then my little trick that I'll show you is you put an extra split ring on there, and it helps with the hookups tremendously. The split ring just sets that treble hook back just a little bit further. It gives them a little something to key on. Had a pretty good, I think I only had maybe 2 fish, hit at this thing and miss it every other one. I caught a lot of small fish, like I'm talking 11 inchers on the big 110 Whopper plopper, but I was using 50-pound Sunline X Plasma. That line is cash money. 7-foot 3-inch medium heavy Cashin Icon worm jig rod. That rod is just like the perfect balance for that 110 plopper, and you can heave that thing a country mile on the Zillion HD. It's got that bigger handle. Really like it. It's the 8-to-1, the higher gear ratio. I caught a 4.4 on it, which is like an 8-pounder in most places. On it on day number 3, I made an absolute bomb cast. I cranked it about 3 times, and then whoosh. I mean, that sucker got absolutely trashed. And I just hooked and I just leaned back, reeled into that fish, and that thing, I just high speed. Once I got that fish coming towards me, just take that high speed reel with these big handles, and I was just churning as fast as I could, and just boat flipped it, because I could see it had both treble hooks either side of its mouth, and 50-pound braid. It ain't coming off, and you ain't got nothing to worry about. That rod, the line, everything was good to go. Put that fish in the boat, and that was a huge deal on day 3, because I had 4 other very small fish on day number 3, but I still had 8, 10, and ended up in 18th place, as I said. So walked away with a good finish, bounced up with some AOI points. Everything was good. I fished Neches, Cow, and the Sabine River. Those are the sections that I fished over here. This go around, I have fished other areas. I fished in Louisiana in years past. I really was on the fence about fishing Taylor's or fishing the Neches, and I fished in the Neches River this go around. I know a lot of the places that they normally are in the Neches, but we did not have very good tides. It made fishing very difficult to be able to hit into the right areas. But sometimes that's what happens. You don't get to adjust the tides. You have to adjust to the tides. Just like you can't you know, force the weather. If you're like, man, I really need clouds and wind, which is what I was really hoping to have, we had sun and slick. I couldn't change that. I had to adapt and change my techniques, maybe adjust some of the places that I was fishing in order to be able to get bit, because it was a grinder out there, but luckily it worked out, and I was able to have another good finish down here. Power of the stash, like I said, came through, and in this stash, we'll stay in Texas, and we'll be back to normal facial conditions once we get back to Virginia. So I appreciate everybody watching. If you have any questions or comments, as always, please be sure to drop them down there. And thank you guys for watching, as always.